Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to why Americans love big cars. I mean, I've seen reactions looking at Americans like exploring America, and you always just find these massive cars throughout. Like there was a video that I reacted to recently of these people who had just arrived from the airport, and they left the airport and all the cars are just massive. And it's just really fascinating, and I know why. Obviously the roads are massive. The US is obviously a huge country, so I guess when it comes to like road trips, it probably helps with that because it's probably more comfort involved in a bigger car. But yeah, there's many factors around it. But yeah, I want to see what this video sort of goes into to understand it more. But yeah, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this reaction. Hopefully you're all doing well, and let's see why Americans love big cars. We all love big cars. Let's be real.
In this low-lying car I drive in, I've been noticing something lately.
That is such a UK car, by the way.
Sitting in traffic, I either can't see past the cars in front of me, or the cars around me are towering over me. And it turns out there's a big reason for that. The production of passenger cars like sedans and wagons for sale in the US has been in free fall since 1975. And in their place has been the steady growth in the production of SUVs. Last year, SUVs and trucks
So it's a
made up
recent-ish.
80%
That's interesting. I didn't realize this is more of a recent thing.
of all new car sales. Compare that to 52% in 2011. The fact that Americans like big cars probably won't shock anyone. They are everywhere, even in my parking scarce neighborhood in Brooklyn.
Really?
The reasons behind this transformation are more than just cultural. It all goes back to a 50-year-old policy that would kick off a huge shift in the way US cars are designed. So I'm driving from my home in Brooklyn, New York to a beach in Rhode Island for a summer vacation. And along the way, I'm going to piece together why big cars took over America. New York was the 45th state to officially succumb to the takeover of SUVs and trucks in 2014, according to this Washington Post analysis. Alaska was the first state to go big car dominant
Makes
in
sense.
1988.
So what we're looking at here is pretty much the states that have barely any people there are the states that first, they sort of, I guess, started the trend.
Go big car dominant in 1988.
So I'm wondering if you have any advice for things I should look out for while I'm on the road.
Anywhere that you stop, count the number of SUVs versus the number of passenger cars.
Okay, we're in the Costco parking lot filled with SUVs. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Jesus.
5, 6, 7,
Oh, wow.
8, 9, 10, 11 SUVs in a row. I think that is my new record.
Jeez.
Once you learn about how much big cars dominate the road, it's like you can't unsee it.
People have lots of reasons for choosing a big car, and certainly the infrastructure in the U.S. supports that choice. Unlike a lot of other countries, our built environment revolves around cars. We have wide roads and wide, plentiful parking spaces, and homes with plenty of parking. I arrived in Connecticut, a state that succumbed to light truck dominance in 2016.
Oh, recent.
And pulled into a rest stop where I interviewed
Recently,
Thomas
anyway.
Bochenek, who was on a cross-country road trip with his wife.
It's very comfortable, okay, to drive. Well, I think the bigger the car, the more you have a feeling of security. You know, the
Fair.
smaller the car, you know, the more likely I think about getting into an accident and being hurt. It has no trouble pulling this almost 7,000-pound trailer.
In other countries, one deterrent for big cars is that they cost so much to fill up with gas. But due to low taxes on gas in the US, fuel is extreme.
Whoa, look how cheap it is in America. Holy shit. Bro, it's so cheap here. Jeez, this is why I don't drive, I'll be honest. I mean, driving in the UK is a fucking ball ache. I mean, I actually do have to learn to drive soon because of my course. So I'm saying this as if I'm not going to start driving soon, but mate, look at the prices, by the way. It's ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, you will typically probably drive a lot more in the US, so it maybe adds up a bit more, but even then.
Extremely cheap compared to other countries. But there's another overlooked bias towards big cars related to why SUVs exist in the first place. In the 1970s, there was a shortage of foreign oil in the US.
1973 dramatized U.S. dependence on foreign oil.
So the US government set rules for automakers to start making cars more fuel efficient to lessen our dependence on the whims of the global oil market. By 1985, new cars had to get 27.5 miles per gallon, or roughly double their fuel efficiency. These new rules applied to cars like sedans and station wagons under a category known as passenger cars. But there were types of vehicles the US government exempted from these rules, things like pickup trucks, which everyday drivers weren't really driving at the time.
And the idea was, if these are working vehicles used by, farmers, construction crews, companies that are hauling freight, those vehicles need to be able to do their job without being choked by emissions controls and without being held to unrealistic fuel economy standards.
So passenger cars got one set of strict rules, and this other category, called light trucks, got another set of more relaxed standards. This regulation created an incentive for car makers to transform light trucks into a vehicle for everyday use. Put in a radio, lots of cargo space, and comfy seats, and voila, that's how we got the SUV.
Okay.
Okay, girls, we're off in our new Jeep Cherokee.
Because behind that classic appearance, it's rugged and powerful.
An automaker needs to spend less money and less time on fuel economy and emissions improvement if they're making and selling an SUV, because it falls under a category that is less stringently regulated.
We had the Wagoneer, but it was very low volume,
so
very
interesting.
bespoke, very expensive. So only a very few people bought it. People that lived in Manhattan would go to the Hamptons or go to northern New York State to go skiing. And that's how the SUV started off life.
This is Ralph Gilles, head of design at Stellantis, a conglomerate of car companies that includes Jeep. One of the early SUVs was the Chevy Blazer, built on the frame of the Chevy S10 truck. This is the traditional definition of an SUV, if it was built on the frame of a truck. And to meet the legal definition of a light truck, it had to have some clearance angles and dimensions just right.
Taking a utilitarian vehicle and turning it into a almost a premium luxury device that happened to be utilitarian. Then comes the Grand Cherokee.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee was built the way passenger cars are, in one piece, or unibody. These two types of car constructions, frame-based and unibody, today form the distinction between traditional SUVs and the new, increasingly popular category of crossover.
They're more
Crossover.
efficiently packaged. You don't have the frame.
The Grand Cherokee was part of the early success story of SUVs in the 90s and 2000s, one that continues today. This bias towards light trucks is why a company like Volkswagen, which once sold primarily passenger cars, has discontinued a lot of them today, like the Passat, in favor of SUVs and crossovers. And they've stopped
Damn.
producing all of their wagons, including the Jetta wagon I'm in. And a company like Ford has stopped producing all of their passenger cars except for the iconic Mustang.
Really? That's crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna see if anyone at
So they solely pretty much just sell big cars,
car
SUVs.
dealership will talk to me.
Buick was always car, really. It was mostly sedans. And then just with the market shift, we actually don't even sell a Buick sedan anymore. They don't even make a Buick sedan. It's all crossovers.
When was the last time you guys carried like a Buick passenger car?
It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
And how many did you have on the
Bro,
lot?
look at the size.
Like 1 to 100 of them.
Fucking hell, bro. Imagine getting hit by that in a car crash.
And how many
Bro, that is a fucking huge car. My God, and this one too.
did you have on the lot?
Like 1 to 100 of SUVs. We're here to sell cars, but we want to sell what people want. If they were here and people
Fair.
didn't want them, I'm glad they're not
Bro,
here.
this is a monster. Look at this thing. You can drive this in half of the UK, bro.
Or, you know.
So this chart starts to
Not
make
a
a lot more
chance.
sense. 1975 was the year these fuel economy standards for sedans and wagons were passed, the same ones that didn't apply as strictly to SUVs and trucks.
It's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, because the automakers have been marketing SUVs more preferentially than passenger cars. They've been putting more research and development into creating more models that fit into the SUV category. And they've made it so that it's an easier decision to get into an SUV than it is to get into a passenger car.
As of 2016, our fuel economy standards shifted. Vehicles are still separated by the stricter standard for passenger cars and looser standard for light trucks. But within those categories, there are more breakdowns. Regulators multiply a car's wheelbase length by its width to get a footprint. And larger cars within each category get weaker rules. That means that car makers are not only incentivized to phase out passenger cars in their fleet, but they are pushed to make each category bigger. The Toyota
Wow.
Camry got both longer and wider, and the Toyota RAV4 did too.
That's so weird.
I've now reached Rhode Island. the very last state in the country to go light truck dominant. We have started the inevitable transition to electric vehicles, but
If you're still talking about a larger vehicle with higher ground clearance that's heavier and taller, it's still going to be less energy efficient, whether it's an electric car or an internal combustion powered car.
one sobering impact of big cars is the threat it poses to pedestrians. One study found that replacing the growth in SUVs with cars would have averted over 1,000 pedestrian deaths. People on foot get hit higher and in
Oh,
more...
be real, bro. You're getting hit by this. I mean, getting hit by a car, usually you're not going to stand much of a chance anyway, but you could already get hit by this at like, should I think of like a 25 miles per hour? I'm trying to imagine how that... This is a fucking big car, bro. And that's causing damage. I mean, I would say that definitely could kill people just based off how big it is, but I don't really know. I could be wrong with that. This is a monster, man. Look how far back it goes as well.
more vulnerable regions when hit by an SUV or a truck rather than a
Oh, bro, look at the size of that.
hit by an
I
SUV
thought this one was big.
or a truck.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Look, it's like a monster truck. This is what I think of when I think of a monster truck, bro. I keep saying bro. I don't know what I'm saying bro or not. I'm going to stop. That's pissing me off. But this is so... I mean, look, he's probably like, what, 5'10"? I think. I don't really know.
Truck rather than
That's
a passenger
crazy.
car.
No, he's taller than 5'10". He looks about 6 foot at least.
Before hitting the beach, I stopped at my friend Kevin Wright's house. He's bucked the SUV trend and drives a Honda Fit, a car that was discontinued in...
I mean, that's fair, and I respect that. But he does look a bit shorter as well, so it's probably an easier decision as well. I respect it. I'm not tall either, so I understand. But that's probably playing a role. If he was like 6 inches taller, would he want to do this? I mean, you can still have comfort. It's a car, right? But, and look, taller people will have smaller cars, but that might play a bit of a role.
2020.
We had our daughter about 17 months ago. It's just kind of making sure that everybody has enough space to be comfortable as well as being safe. It gets good gas mileage and thinking about long-term, climate change is happening. What can we do to minimize our carbon footprint as much as we can? So we were thinking about a second car, maybe getting an SUV in that situation, but ultimately decided to kind of go the other direction and got an e-bike.
Oh, we've got an e-bike.
You have arrived.
How do you go from a car to an e-bike? That's a very big contrast.
Even though we're in Rhode Island, which was the last...
Parking up. Just even parking up, bro. Everything's fucking huge. This is really putting it into context just how it would be on the roads in America.
Even though we're in
He's got this thing, you got that there, like, bro.
Rhode Island, which was the last holdout for SUV dominance, there is still a lot of SUVs here.
I'm curious if you think there's any political will or urgency to change this trend towards bigger cars.
That's something that has environmental concerns. It's something that has economic concerns with how much we are reliant on oil. It also has to do
I guess with the current people in charge, I don't think Trump seems to be that fussed by climate change, right? So it's probably not going to be anytime soon, if we're honest.
Safety, pedestrian safety, cyclist safety. So there is a desire among younger people and more politically active people to try to make it so that an SUV is not the default vehicle choice for American families.
The U.S. is unlikely to become a small car country anytime soon. But this dramatic transition to big cars wasn't just about consumer choice. It was enabled by policy choice. So if we want our roads to look different, we could try and start there.
That is crazy how the policies led to bigger cars just being like more just easier for them to produce and stuff. Realistically, I'm so fascinated as to how that can happen, because surely overall it costs more to create them, right? So it does cost the companies more. They end up making more because they can sell them for more. But I just find it wild how it's sort of not been forced upon them, but it's just sort of been like given to them, and it's just sort of they just ran with it because they're gonna obviously try and make the most money they can possibly make. The dilemma is people buy big cars for safety from people driving big cars. Yeah, it's vicious. I do get that, I'll be honest, and having a big car is quite cool. Like, I'll be honest, having a car like this in the UK, like, let me just get the one that was here. Actually, no, let me get the one Was it at the start here? No, it was on here. Yeah, this.
Which was the
Having
last.
this. Oh, fuck's sake. You see what car I'm on about. Having this in the UK, bro, you must feel like you got the biggest dick in the world. Driving that car, it's just so much bigger than everything. I mean, in the US, it's probably not standing out like that, but even then. No, there was the monster truck one. That's the one that I was on about. This thing. Bro, like, look at the size of that. That is crazy. Like, look how high up it is. That is wild. This is big even for a US car, right? Just to understand. Yeah, that's crazy, man. You literally got to jump up to get in that car every time, but again, driving that in the UK would be so cool if you could drive it around. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.